How many memoirs can you write? That is a great question. And my question for you is, what's behind the question? Are you simply curious and you're wanting to learn more about memoir writing before you start? That's actually then a great question. Perhaps you've already started writing your memoir and you've got so many ideas and thoughts and stories you want to tell that you're getting lost, you're getting stuck, you're getting bogged down, and you're ending up with too much information. Well, I have a solution for you in this video on how many memoirs can one write. And the answer is simply, how many stories do you have to tell? And how do you know when to start your story and when to end your story? Because that will really bracket your memoir and help you understand what you're writing and why you're writing it, and what should stay in and what should be left out. Those are all questions one has to grapple with when writing any story, but particularly a memoir. Because by the time we write our stories, we've lived long lives, we have a lot we want to say, and so we can put in too much information. So yes, the short answer is you can write as many memoirs as you wish. You may be thinking autobiography. Most people have one autobiography. You could possibly have two, depending on when you decide to write your autobiography. But mostly we write them towards the end of our lives, and we do one. But memoir is so varied, so wide, so creative, it's such a beautiful form of nonfiction that you can have as many as you like, depending on the story you're wanting to tell and why you're telling it. So we do have to look at theme, we have to look at a number of things, which we will do as we work through these videos on this channel. But to write your story with memoir, let's start by looking at other people who've written memoirs and more than one, and see what we can glean from that, and then transfer that to you. And what are you struggling with? What is the solution for you, and how can you move forward? Let's get started on these memoirs. I have a little pile here for you. Now, some of them I have more than one memoir from the same person, and other ones we'll just have to refer to. So let's start with this one. So this is one I've spoken about before on my channel. Some of these I have rifled through my library to get copies for you. I have read Picnic in Provence, and I've read the first one by Elizabeth Bard, Her Lunch in Paris. So she wrote her first one, Lunch in Paris, very much about being in Paris, falling in love with her husband, and living the expat life in Paris. She is an American. So there's one area and one theme, one focus she chose for her memoir. Then memoir number 2 comes along, Picnic in Provence, a memoir with recipes. And this one is now she's married, they have a son, they move down to the south of France, to Provence, and she writes about starting their business, raising their young son, some struggles she has as a new mom, and it's really a light-hearted, warm, embracing story. So that's the memoir that she's written, 2 of them, perhaps she'll write a third, and the focus that she's taken. We have Mary Karr and her book Lit, the one that I'm busy reading at the moment. Now, she has written 3 memoirs. The first one deals with when she is a young child in her dysfunctional home. Another one deals with her adolescence and being a young adult. And now this is the third one where she talks about being an adult and meeting her husband, developing her drinking problem, how she started drinking, how her drinking materialized in her life. And beyond that, I haven't got, so I can't tell you more about it at this stage. But that's how she structured her memoirs. So she's divided her life up into segments and discussed different aspects and themes from each area of her life, each time in her life, divided up by her age. So that's something you could consider too. Perhaps you want to look at when you were a child, do another memoir on when you were a teen, another memoir with some struggles as adults. It can be phases in our lives, ages. There are a number of ways we can know when to start and end our memoir. It depends on what theme we're exploring, what message we want to convey to the reader, and what we are wanting to explore for ourselves. So those are things to consider when writing your memoir and deciding if you're going to do one or even more than one. So another one I have is a personal favorite of mine. So this is by Ron Hall and Denver Moore. and this is my copy. Their first one was Same Kind of Different as Me, and then this one is the sequel of their memoir, What Difference Do It Make? Stories of Hope and Healing from the authors of Same Kind of Different as Me. So their memoir writes about a theme related to a particular woman who impacted both of them. So for Ron Hall, it's his wife, and for Denver Moore, it's also Ron's wife, but in his relationship to her as a homeless person and how she reached out to him. She dies, unfortunately, of cancer, and so they write a memoir about her and how she's impacted their lives and brought them together to be a friendship. A poor black American man who's homeless and a wealthy white American man who has everything he needs and wants, and how his wife brings them together and their relationship and their faith. It's also a faith memoir. So this is the focus they had. Their first memoir became really popular and famous, and so then they wrote the second one as a follow-up to the first one to explore their relationship further and to explain what happened after that. It's a wonderful, humorous read and a very interesting way in which it's written. So I will do another video too where we talk about how to structure your memoir. Which format does it take? There's so much to consider. So if you're wanting to write your memoir, you're wanting to know more about these things, please do consider subscribing and click on the notification bell so that you know whenever a new video is released. Another firm favorite of mine, if you follow my channel, you're going to know I really do love things about France, and I love travel memoirs. That's really a real firm favorite of mine. So a very famous one is Peter Mayle's A Year in Provence, where he wrote about the first year of living in Provence. It was a phenomenal success that he went on to write subsequent follow-ups, which really are memoirs of living in France. And so he wrote Toujours Provence, and he's written, I'm sure more, I can't remember their names, all the names of the books right now. So something to consider when writing, especially travel memoirs or lifestyle memoirs. These are books you can write as you're actually living it. You don't have to have first lived it 10, 15, 20 or 3 decades later, look back and write on it. You can do it as you're living it, because that's really what makes it unique and vital. So that's another way to consider how you'll structure your memoir and how many you will write. So then again, another firm favorite, light-hearted, beautiful memoir is James Herriott's memoirs. So first, All Creatures Great and Small, then All Things Bright and Beautiful. He writes his story about his experiences, and this one, as I've mentioned in a previous video, is semi-autobiographical. So do watch that video if you're wanting to know why it is semi-autobiographical. So he writes about his life as a vet in the Yorkshire Dales, and in the first one he's a single man who meets his future wife. In the second one now, he and his wife are married and things are progressing from there, but still a lot of the same characters and humor. So he also separated all his stories into different memoirs, sequel memoirs that follow one on the other. However, that doesn't mean that that's how you have to write yours, because we could take a leaf out of this book by Frances Mays. So here are 2 of her memoirs, which I've discussed before. Frances Mays, Under the Tuscan Sun, and then Under Magnolia. So she certainly has a theme with regard to the title and the setting. So one is in Tuscany, the other one is in the southern states of the US. And so she first wrote Under the Tuscan Sun, a lot like A Year in Provence, in that she writes about moving to Italy, buying a home, fixing it up, and her memoir related to that, and became also a very popular memoir. After she wrote that one, then she went on to write Under Magnolia, where she then went back to her childhood in the US, in the southern states, and she wrote her experience from that. I haven't read this one yet, but it's on my list to read. So Under Magnolia by Frances Mays. You don't have to write your memoirs in chronological order. That's what makes memoirs so beautiful, is that you can write on this theme, you can write another theme, you can write different themes, you can have completely different focuses. It is helpful if there's some correlation, but they don't need to be. They can serve different functions. And the last one I have to share with you today is this one by Sea Sunrise Person. And this one she wrote first, North of Normal, a memoir of my wilderness childhood, my counterculture family, and how I survived both. This one's a little bit in the league of Educated, something along those lines. But this one she wrote first, and she ends the story, her memoir, now being a happily married woman with children of her own. That's where she ends this memoir. Whether she intended to write another memoir or not, I can't tell you. But what happened afterwards is she went on to write a second memoir called Nearly Normal. Surviving the Wilderness, My Family and Myself. I haven't read this one yet. I have read North of Normal and I do recommend it. This one she wrote apparently later on after her marriage fell apart, and she had to go back and revisit issues in her life that she hadn't dealt with. So that is something for you to consider too. Perhaps you're going to write one memoir and you don't even know it. There's going to be another one that's going to come. And so there's overlap, I would suspect, between these two memoirs. So this one does deal with her as a child and goes on into her adulthood. This one, I think, starts with her adulthood and then goes back into her childhood. So there are a variety of ways in which you can write your memoir. And the question is, what are you wanting to achieve? What is your focus? Are you stuck and you're just going around in circles? Well then, let's start again and put some parameter around your memoir. Where is it going to start? Where is it going to end? And so your homework from this video is to look at what we've discussed today. Stop, go back to your memoir, and now start to think from the ones we've looked at and discussed, how can you re-look at the one you're doing and perhaps bring some structure to it, some beginning, some end, some focus. We're going to talk more about theme, which is integral part of memoir writing. It's way more integral than you're going to find in autobiography. Theme is crucial, and so look out for that video. It will help you as well. So do subscribe. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below, and I'd love to go on this journey with you, answer any questions you have, give me some ideas of anything you'd like me to discuss and talk about, because this channel is really here to help you to write your story.